When my husband and I divorced, we each kept a secret from the other. I never told him that my decision to separate wasn't because I looked down on him for losing his vitality on the battlefield. It was because I discovered my father's affair with a concubine in the inner palace, and I feared it would implicate him. Only then did I harden my heart to leave. He, too, never told me that his vitality was never actually harmed. It was because the doctor back then determined I could never conceive. Fearing I would live in sadness and self-blame, he fabricated that excuse. We were meant to never know each other's secrets. Until 3 years later, my family's bridal sedan chair unexpectedly collided with his wedding procession. By then, he was the minister of the Court of Judicial Review, on his way to marry the noble Princess Fusang of Yangqing. And I, finally implicated by my father's crimes, had to sacrifice myself to save the family. I was forced to marry the late young General Shui, who died in battle, to perform the ritual of a ghost marriage. Our eyes met. Gu Yanji's dark eyes swept over me with cold indifference. He ignored me, simply riding past me on his horse. Snowflakes sprayed across my face, choking me until tears welled up. The wedding matron following behind him answered with a smile, "Our Lord Gu is going to receive the Princess Fusang of Shangyang. Young lady, where are you headed to be married? Why is there no groom to meet you?" "I am going to the Shui family of Shangyang." At the mention of the Shui family, the smile on the matron's face froze instantly. She fell silent. The snowy roads were treacherous. Traveling to Shangyang meant we would likely be on the same path for 3 days. I gazed at the distant figure covered in snow, the young man sitting tall on his horse, and I dazed for quite a while. I met him when we were 15, married at 17, and divorced at 20. 3 years ago, I brought the divorce papers for Gu Yanji to sign. The scene feels as if it were yesterday. His injured hand clutched the jade pendant I had smashed, our token of love. Blood mingled with raindrops, dripping down. He gripped my hand tightly, desperate and frantic. "Is divorce the only way? Shuangling, what did I do wrong? Or is there something you want that I haven't given you? Just say it. I'll give you anything, even my life. I only beg you not to leave me." Heavy raindrops hammered against my umbrella. Thunder rumbled overhead. The metallic taste of blood rose in my throat, but I forced it back into a cold sneer. "Gu Yanji, I want glory and wealth. What can you give me?" "A mere military officer, who has lost his vitality on the battlefield, who can no longer even hold a sword. You are a useless man." I was the one who divorced him. When he was at his most vulnerable and needed me most, he endured the pain and signed the papers, and even returned all of my dowry. He only said one thing: "I wish for Miss Liu to find a more suitable husband in the future." Later, he re-entered the imperial examinations, rose through the ranks, and became the minister of the Court of Judicial Review. As for my father, he was sentenced to exile with the whole clan for defying the emperor. It was only because of the prearranged marriage between the Liu and Shui families that the women of my family were spared. I pulled back my wandering thoughts. Sleep pattered against the sedan chair. My maid, Cholan, looked at the road, pointing to the Shangyun Inn not far ahead. "Miss, it's dark now. The road is even harder to travel. We can only rest here for the night." I nodded. Gu Yanji was also staying here. The innkeeper busied himself with service, bringing us a pot of hot wine to warm our bodies. That wedding matron from the Gu family suddenly approached. "Young lady, the master Shui of East Shangyang you are marrying has crowds of concubines. I heard his primary wife just beat one to death recently." "Thank you for the warning, matron. I will be careful." Gu Yanji put down his wine cup, his expression full of contempt. "Lu Shuangling, even a debauched scoundrel like Shui Jinghuai is someone you'd marry? Willingly becoming a concubine. What exactly are you after?" He paused, his eyes unable to hide his disdain. "Are you after his nights of revelry? His life spent among flowers and willows? When I married Gu Yanji back then, I told him that if he married me, I must be his only wife." I swallowed the forced smile that was at the tip of my tongue. Lord Gu is indeed a man of great literary talent, but I am indeed a vulgar person. Cholan tugged at my sleeve and whispered, "Miss, why don't you say that you aren't marrying into the East Shangyang Shui family, but the West Shangyang Shui family?" The West Shangyang Shui family meant the young General Shui who had just died. He was the one I was to marry. I would have no wedding ceremony, no wedding night. Only a posthumous title and a shared grave, a marriage to be completed in death. Seeing my silence, Cholan's voice cracked with urgency. "Miss, it has come to this. Do you still want his lordship to misunderstand? Why not explain everything to him? The reason you divorced him 3 years ago." "Explain what?" "That I discovered my father's illicit affair with the inner palace concubines? That once exposed, it was a crime punishable by the execution of the entire clan? That I was afraid of dragging him down with me, so I divorced him? To me, he was the moon in the sky. How could I bear to stain that moonlight? I had no intention of confessing 3 years ago. And now that we are both moving on to our own lives, what meaning is there in confessing now? How would I say it? And where would I even begin?" As my mind raced with these thoughts, Gu Yanji tossed down 2 pieces of silver and rose to leave. Just then, the door of the inn was burst open by a ragged old beggar. The howling snow felt like tiny knives, cutting painfully into one's face. The old beggar held a broken bowl, his dark face etched with the hardships of the elements. He blocked Gu Yanji's path. "Lord, give me a bowl of porridge. I won't eat it for free. Just give me the cost of a bowl of porridge, to let me take shelter from the snow tonight. I can foresee marriage calamities above, and illness and lifespan below. Lord, let me tell your fortune." Gu Yanji's face was grim. He never believed in spirits or gods. The matron was quick-witted. She handed him a bowl of porridge. She smiled. "Our Lord doesn't believe in such things. Take this bowl of porridge. Just say a few auspicious words. Wish our Lord and Princess Fusang a happy marriage. But his lordship and the princess are not fated for marriage. You foolish old beggar. Our Lord and the princess are perfectly matched. They faced life and death together when he left the prison at the parade grounds. The princess's favorite glass cups and pearl jewelry. His lordship provides them all. The princess even hand-embroidered boots and pouches for his lordship. Their wedding is in 2 days. How could they not be fated for marriage?" I didn't want to listen, but my nose stung with grief. Married to Gu Yanji for 3 years. He had been a blunt, unromantic soldier. He never once gave me jewelry or hairpins. Every time I tried to hint at it using storybooks, he would only clumsily hand me the keys to the warehouse. "Whatever my wife wants, go buy it yourself." But now? He was so considerate towards the princess. Time is truly a powerful thing. It can make an unromantic man become gentle. I lowered my eyes and called Cholon to return to our room. But the old beggar blocked my way. "Miss, why not let this old man read your fortune? I only ask for a single flatbread. In 2 years, you shall have a son and a daughter. A blessing of a dragon and a phoenix. Innkeeper, come and handle this. Just drive this old beggar and his nonsense away. He is just a pitiful man, trying to get a meal." He was making up these absurd stories just to survive. He didn't know I was marrying a dead man, making it impossible to have children. No one wants to lie. Sometimes, you're just forced into it, by circumstances. Gu Yanji turned and left with a cold face. A snowy white jade piece charm fell from his waist. My breath caught. He still kept the charm I had prayed for him. That charm still had my name engraved on it. I instinctively picked it up, and chased after Gu Yanji for a few steps. "Gu Yanji, you dropped something." Gu Yanji's figure paused momentarily. His robes fluttered, trembling slightly like a reed in the wind. His indifferent voice pierced my ears along with the heartless wind. "It's a useless thing. Just throw it away." With that, he straightened his back and walked resolutely into the corridor. I stood frozen on the spot, clutching the white jade. Even the wind seemed to pity me, mocking my late-coming affection along with Gu Yanji. I stood there in a daze, staring at the shadow that had vanished into the corridor. My chest felt so tight I couldn't utter a word. Suppressing the surge of sorrow, I had just returned to my room and sat at the table, when I suddenly coughed up a mouthful of black blood, splattering it onto the jade piece. "Charm. Miss, I'll go get a doctor." I weakly raised my hand. All color drained from my face. "There's no need." Before I boarded the sedan, my mother put a slow-acting poison in the farewell wine she gave me. She was afraid I would desert the marriage at the last minute and run away on my own. If death is already a certainty, then I no longer have a reason to run. When I set out again the next day, Gu Yanji was already gone. In the carriage, Cholon had prepared a hand warmer for me. She pushed open the window to look out, and remarked, "Miss, the frozen road has become much easier to travel." Gu Yanji left first. There are wheel tracks pressed into the snow. We just need to follow them. The sedan moved slowly forward. When we reached Shanghai Pass, I suddenly called for the driver to stop. "Wait a moment. There is a small village here. I remembered in our first year of marriage. I passed through here with Gu Yanji while hunting. I said the scenery here was beautiful. So Gu Yanji personally cut bamboo and sawed wood to build a small bamboo house for me. When the wars are settled, and the world is at peace, I will protect you, and we will spend our lives together in this small bamboo house." But there would never be another chance. I wanted to take one last look, to look at it as if we had already spent our lives together. But the small bamboo house had long since been burned to a pile of ashes. I held back my tears and was about to turn back, when an old lady from the neighborhood saw my red wedding clothes, and peered out from her gate. "Miss, is it a wedding? I wish you a life of love with a good husband. Could you spare some wedding fruit for this old woman, to give my grandson a treat?" The sounds of a noisy child came from the thatched hut behind her. I asked Cholon to go back to the carriage and get some fruit. "Miss, you're going to Shenyang, aren't you? There have been many happy events in East Shenyang lately. The most notable is that Lord Gu, the Minister of Judicial Review, finally got his wish, and is marrying Princess Fusang. Princess Fusang went to the Zhao Kingdom for a political marriage at 14. She left a letter for Lord Gu, saying she hoped he would marry someone else. And Lord Gu really did marry someone else. But fortunately, fate smiled on them. Lord Gu divorced. And Princess Fusang finally returned from the enemy nation. They can finally fulfill their regrets. You and your husband will surely grow old together as well. I froze on the spot. Snow fell on my forehead, sending a chill through my heart. So Gu Yanji married me. Only to fulfill a wish of Princess Fusang? So even though I left him when he was most miserable, he only said, I wish you'd find a better husband? It was because he didn't care. It's good that he didn't care. Isn't this exactly what I wanted? From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. The winter after our divorce, I braved the heavy snow to climb Mount Qingqing to pray. I prayed for Gu Yanji's success, that his great ambitions would be realized. I prayed that he would have no place for me in his heart, and would marry a beautiful woman again. Now, every wish has been granted. I should be happy. It's wonderful. I wish them 100 years of togetherness, joined together as husband and wife. I must continue my journey. The carriage had only traveled a few dozen miles, when the driver reported in a panic, Miss, there's been a landslide ahead. I'm afraid we won't be able to pass for a while. The wind and snow grew heavier. In front, Gu Yanji's guards were clearing the rubble. We had no choice but to stop and rest again. Qiulan helped me into a nearby cave to escape the cold and get warm. As soon as we entered, I saw that a fire had already been lit in the dark, damp cave. Gu Yanji was sitting by the fire. The wedding matron warmly invited me to rest with them, and then led Qiulan out to gather firewood. The firewood crackled as it burned. Only Gu Yanji and I remained. Across the dancing flames, I looked at Gu Yanji by the firelight. His eyes were slightly closed, and he was dressed in red. When we married, it coincided with a period of national mourning. We couldn't have a grand ceremony. We could only bow to heaven and earth in ordinary clothes. Even though we were married, that night, Gu Yanji drank some wine with me, and promised me that one day, he would make sure I wore a phoenix crown and embroidered robes, 10 miles of red makeup, to make up for the wedding ceremony I missed. From that day on, I had been looking forward and waiting, wondering what we would look like in our wedding finery. A sense of desolation welled up in my heart. Now that we are finally wearing wedding clothes, it is for our own separate marriages. We no longer have anything to do with each other. Across the rising flames, I was lost in a quiet daze, watching him. Gu Yanji's dark eyes looked toward me calmly, with a clear sense of disgust in his gaze. I quickly looked away. Lu Shuangling, the Shui family has no such interest, nor any intention of taking a concubine. The cave was small, so quiet that only rapid breathing could be heard. Cold sweat soaked my back. My heart hammered against my ribs. He knew everything. Becoming a mistress to that profligate Shui Jinghui. Was it your choice, or your family's? He actually thought I was going to be Shui Jinghui's mistress. A mistress is even lower than a concubine. It's no wonder he thought so. When my father was in trouble, he had come to my door to ask, are you divorcing me? Because you're afraid of dragging me down? He stood in the rain all night, saying that if my father was wronged, he would seek justice for me. He gave me his house deeds and land titles, saying he would work hard to enter the civil service, to support the Lu family's honor. But what did I say then? I said, support the Lu family's honor? Gu Yanji, you have neither power, nor status, and in the future, you will be even more powerless. Tell me, how exactly are you going to support me? I even said, if you really want to marry me again, then go back and recognize Chancellor Gu as your father, give me glory and wealth, then maybe I can endure the disgust of being with a useless man like you. Chancellor Gu was the father he had sworn to sever ties with, the enemy who, to promote his mistress, had driven Gu Yanji's mother to her death. I chose the most hurtful words, wounding him to the core. I pulled back my thoughts, lowered my eyes, and forced a bitter smile. If I am unwilling, no one can make me bow my head. I am doing this willingly. Though Shui Jinghui is profligate and affectionate, he is extremely wealthy. He is willing to spend thousands on his mistresses. I lied, what I admire is precisely his temperament and style. He's just like me. Gu Yanji's disgusted gaze stung like needles. It was so sharp I didn't dare to look up at him. He gave a cold laugh, a faint mockery overflowing from the corners of his lips. I clenched my palms, letting his coldness, sharp as ice, pierce through me. Just then, Qiulan came in with the marriage contract, breaking the silence in a panic. Miss, the marriage contract has been soaked by the snow. She was walking too fast, and tripped on a rock, falling right in front of Gu Yanji. The marriage contract in her arms flew out, and sprawled on the ground. Gu Yanji looked down, his gaze falling upon that document. Here lies the son of the Shui family, who sacrificed his soul for the nation. Therefore, Lu Shuangling of the Lu family willingly enters into an eternal union. Qiulan was quick. She quickly picked up the contract and scrambled up. My breathing grew shallow. Suddenly I remembered that Gu Yanji had night blindness. He couldn't see things clearly in the dark. A marriage contract? Isn't Miss Lu joining the Shui family as a concubine? Only a primary wife would have a marriage contract. It's Qiulan's marriage contract. Qiulan's marriage contract. I'm helping her look at it before we reach Shangyang. Someone found a match for Qiulan. It's for real. I'll set him free after I die. But Gu Yanji simply turned his back on me, making the calm I was trying so hard to maintain look utterly ridiculous. The wind and snow wouldn't stop. The maids and servants had endured for a day, and by this night they finally couldn't hold out any longer. But I didn't feel sleepy at all. The sound of the wind and snow outside grew weaker, and the firewood inside crackled. My whole body felt a bit feverish. I wanted some cool air to dissipate the heat. Walking to the cave entrance, I found Gu Yanji already standing by the wall, looking a bit lost and melancholy. He held a wine flask, tilting his head back to pour wine down his throat. I quickly retreated, wanting to go back into the cave, but accidentally stepped on a dry branch. This caused Gu Yanji to turn his head. At a glance, I saw that hideous scar on his neck. Memories came flooding back. That year, on my grandmother's birthday, he accompanied me back to the manor to celebrate. Grandmother had prepared exquisite tonics for the sisters. I arrived the earliest, yet I was the last one allowed to choose. I picked up only what the others had left behind. A few days later, on the table in my bedroom, lay a magnificent cloud-patterned silk dress. I cried with emotion, moved that this unromantic husband of mine understood the sadness I had never spoken of. Long afterward, I learned from his colleagues that the silk dress was the prize from a polo match. The scar on his neck was from a fall during that very polo match. Gu Yanji's voice pulled me out of my memories. Lu Shuangling, don't ever appear before my eyes again for the rest of eternity. Let's act as if we never knew each other. Take care of yourself. The world is vast. Having said his piece, he turned and left without waiting for my response. Walking further outside the cave, to check the progress of the debris removal, my sorrow arrived with a delayed realization. I just stood there quietly, watching Gu Yanji's retreating back as he walked further and further away, listening to nothing but the wailing wind on the snowy mountain. In this life, I have always been obedient. The only time I ever defied my parents was to marry him as his wife. Those 3 years felt like an unreal dream of happiness. He was once so good to me. Of course, I wouldn't let him down. Once Gu Yanji left, he never returned to the cave. As dawn broke the next morning, the path was cleared. The guard led the fine horse to Gu Yanji. He put on his heavy cloak, mounted his horse, spurred it to a gallop, and set off immediately. His command was exceptionally firm. Gu Yanji rode away with impatient haste. I looked up into the distance, watching a figure in red gradually fade into the bluish-gray horizon. Now that he's gone, it's time for us to depart as well. My bridal procession didn't reach the gates of Shangyang until the sky was pitch black. I had intentionally delayed our journey to avoid crossing paths with Gu Yanji's wedding party. I didn't expect to run into them again anyway. Gu Yanji's attendants were still taking inventory of the substantial betrothal gifts. Chests of glittering jewels stretched for at least a mile like a flowing river. Qiulan watched with envious, reddened eyes, choking back sobs of distress. Miss, back when his lordship married you, the list of betrothal gifts couldn't even fill a single sheet of paper. Yet now, his marriage to the princess is so extravagant. I, however, remained as calm as water. He had abandoned his family status, gave up the sword for the brush, and rose to become the commissioner of the Court of Judicial Review. He had overcome countless hardships. His current unparalleled glory was well-deserved. Miss, I have escorted you this far. I must now return to report back. I was lost in thought when the accompanying nanny came to bid farewell. A bridal procession should be led by family, but mother said it was bad luck, so she only sent her personal nanny to accompany me. Miss, the madam has given her instructions. Once you marry into the Xue family, Madame Xue will surely ask for your final wishes. At that time, please beg the Xue family to speak well of the Lu family before the emperor. With the Xue family's protection, the unmarried daughters of the Lu family can secure good marriages. After hearing her finish, I only asked, did mother leave any other instructions? The nanny shook her head and said there was nothing else. My breathing grew heavy. I was about to die. Yet my own mother didn't even offer a word of safe passage, or a wish for my well-being in the next life. Miss, as the eldest daughter, this is the burden you must bear. Because I was the eldest daughter, I had to endure harshness and indifference. Even Gu Yanji had suffered humiliation along with me. The legitimate eldest daughter must be sacrificed for the family's interests. To enter a ghost marriage with the young General Xue. The heavy snow fell incessantly. A mist clouded my eyes. I softly replied, I understand. Suddenly, the sound of urgent hoofbeats came from the city gate. Looking up, I saw an exquisitely beautiful woman, hopping down from her carriage with a smile, running straight to Gu Yanji. Yanji, look what I brought you. Candied haws. They're so sweet. No need to guess. Someone so noble must be Princess Fusong. Princess, why have you come? It's freezing cold. By etiquette, you shouldn't see me today. But I wanted to see you. Hurry, taste it. Is it sweet? He took a bite, looking helpless yet doting. Frowning, he said. It's extremely sweet. The fine snow continued to fall, soaking me in its damp chill. In the past, I loved eating candied haws and made them in different ways for him to try. But he always refused. Time passes, and people change. Gu Yanji lifted the princess by her waist with one hand, placed her on the horse, pulled the reins, and turned around. Just then, the thunderous sound of gongs and drums rang out. The Shui family escort passed in front of Gu Yanji's horse. We have come to receive Miss Liu. What awaited me was not a bridal sedan, but a pitch-black coffin. Princess Fusang was startled by the coffin, and briefly glanced in my direction. Which family's steward are you? Why use a coffin to receive a bride? This servant is from the Shui family. Doesn't the Shui family use sedans to enter and coffins to leave? Ah, you wouldn't know. It was Madame Shui who gave the order. If young Master Shui were to take a concubine or a mistress, she can only be received with a coffin. Princess Fusang wanted to say more, but Gu Yanji stopped her. Gu Yanji said contemptuously, if others wish to bring trouble upon themselves, why waste your breath? With that, he quickly rode away. I stared at Gu Yanji's receding back, wondering if one day, he would realize this was the bridal carriage for the wedding, and also the hearse for my death. Would he be sad for me? As soon as the thought appeared, I suppressed it. In my life, nothing was ever my choice. In the end, I still couldn't escape this cruel fate. Gu Yanji, you should keep doing exactly this. Stride forward, and never look back. Miss, please enter the city quickly. How can they use a coffin to bring Miss into the city? Miss is about to be buried alongside our young master. If we don't use a coffin to receive her, should we use an 8-bearer bridal sedan? My voice turned cold. I turned back to the sedan. The wedding is set for tomorrow. I will appear at the general's manor on time tomorrow. With half a day remaining, there was one more thing I had to do. I once made a vow before the Bodhisattva. First, I wished for Gu Yanji's career to soar, and for his ambitions to be fulfilled. Second, I wished for him to marry a fine lady, and have no place for me in his heart. Both have now come true. I had to go fulfill my vow. There was a Dazhao temple in the west of the city. I went to the Mahavira Hall. The golden Buddha statue looked down upon all living beings. I lit 3 incense sticks, knelt on the cushion, and pressed my palms together to fulfill my vow. Then, I piously made 3 new wishes. First, I wish not to be born into an aristocratic family in my next life, so that I may be free. Second, I wish to be loved by parents and brothers. Third, I wish for my heart's business to be finished. I passed through the front hall and walked down the mountain. Red ribbons fluttered on the prayer tree before the hall. I suddenly remembered New Year's Eve 3 years ago, when Gu Yanji told me, Ling, this Dazhao temple is the most effective for seeking marriage blessings. After the new year, we'll go to Shangyang and fill the prayer tree with our ribbons, to protect our marriage and ensure it remains smooth, and that everything is perfect. However, the night before we were to leave, I discovered my father's illicit affair with an imperial consort. In a panic, I made the decision to divorce him. We couldn't hang the ribbons then. And now, it is finally a song of parting. The wind and snow grew stronger. The red tiles on the roof could no longer hold and began to fall. They were about to hit me on the head. Ah! Look out! Look out! Amidst Qiulan's scream, a figure in red caught them with his bare hands. His palm was instantly sliced open by a hideous, bloody gash. It was Gu Yanji. Before I could even say thank you, he simply stepped past me. His profile was cold. Lu Shuangling, what did you come here to pray for? To pray for wealth and glory? Or for a smooth marriage with that profligate? I couldn't help myself. I sharply asked back, then what did Lord Gu come to pray for? To pray to be as strong as before? To have many descendants? His face instantly turned pale. He forced back the retort that was on the tip of his tongue. He wanted to say that his virility had never been injured. It was the doctor who had determined I would struggle to conceive, fearing I would be sad, guilty, or blame myself, and even more afraid I would take concubines for him for the sake of heirs. He had invented that excuse. What wasn't said then is redundant to say now. I forced myself to hold on, watching his cold, stern back move away. Finally, I violently coughed up another mouthful of blood. The striking crimson bloomed like a seductive flower on the pristine white snow. The snow continued to fall, swirling and drifting. One day, the snow will stop, and spring will arrive. Just now, before the Buddha, the third wish I made was to exhaust all the brilliance of my next 3 lives, in exchange for his prosperity and many children in this one. Qiulan helped me up. I calmly prepared to leave, but she pulled me back. Miss, let's run away right now. Let's escape far, far away. You have sacrificed too much for the Liu family. It shouldn't be you going to this marriage. How could I tell her that there are too many things in this world beyond our control, and too many things we cannot fight? Sometimes, death is actually a release. I smiled and used a handkerchief to wipe the blood from her face. And wiped the tears from her eyes. Cholan, would you like some tea? In past winters, Cholan would always brew jasmine tea for me. She said jasmine tea was the sweetest. After drinking hot tea, the cold winter didn't seem so hard to endure. I asked a monk for a side room to brew tea for her. But this time I added a bit of sedative. I watched her sobbing as she drank the cup of hot tea. By the time she wakes up, everything will be over. Ashes to ashes. It will all pass. I put her letter of release, the set wedding date, and the deed to a generous dowry, all into her sleeve. I set off into the wind and snow. The night was deep. The wind and snow showed no signs of stopping. I think that next year, perhaps I should also turn into the falling snow of this world, to accompany the clear breeze and bright moon, and find true freedom. Meanwhile, on the carriage returning from Dazhao Temple, Gu Yanji's gaze was heavy. The gloom between his brows was as thick as frost on a tree, frozen and unbreakable. The snow fell with a rustling sound. Princess Fusang lifted the carriage curtain. It was a world of pure white, filling her with wonder. Gu Yanji, it's snowing again. It's so beautiful. I heard that when the Liu family was in trouble 3 years ago, you knelt in the snow and begged Prime Minister Gu all night to spare the women of the Liu family. You are a man of unyielding character. You once swore a solemn oath to never recognize that father of yours again. You loved her deeply. The man on the tall horse remained silent, as if he hadn't heard. Fusang continued, Gu Yanji, your elder brother and I both had our own difficulties. We missed each other for several years. Now we have finally reunited. Do you really want to live with regret for the rest of your life? Gu Yanji remained silent, but his mind was like a revolving lantern, playing memories of our past. My every smile and frown when we were in love, my harsh words when we divorced, and my cold indifference after we met again. In the 3 years since the divorce, I have changed, and so has he. The court is like a battlefield, full of open attacks and hidden arrows. He fought his way through a sea of corpses. I said I wanted wealth and glory, and now he has it. If I wanted power, he now has the power to protect me. But despite traveling together for 3 days, I never spared him a single glance. He asked me if I was willing. If only I had said no. Even if it were false affection, or a calculated scheme, he would have accepted it gladly, willing to wed me again with a 10-mile bridal procession. Even on this journey, he wore a subtle shade of red, so anyone could see he wasn't the actual groom. He was receiving the bride on behalf of his wheelchair-bound elder brother. Such an obvious thing. I knew all along. But I never asked a single question. Not even one. Only then did he realize that I had long since let go of the past. He was the only one trapped in it. The man who had been torn apart by my own hands. Before our marriage, he had promised me that as long as I wanted it, whether it be the stars in the sky or the moon in the sea, he would find it for me. He had made up his mind. Since I truly loved that profligate, then he would clear the obstacles for me and protect me for the rest of my life. Gu Yanji gripped the prayer ribbon in his palm, soaked in blood. The one he hadn't had time to hang up yet. On it was his forceful handwriting. May Lu Shuangling have her wishes fulfilled, and may everything go smoothly for her. On the 18th day of the 12th lunar month, Princess Fusang was grandly married off. She entered the bridal sedan brought by Gu Yanji, a 10-mile red dowry, and a massive wedding procession. Everyone's face was filled with joy, except for Gu Yanji. His eyes were dark, and his expression was as icy, as if he were holding shards of ice. When he married me, he had already broken ties with his prime minister father. He was just an obscure little instructor in the outskirts of the capital. He was penniless. He sold the mementos left by his mother, yet still couldn't fill even one dowry list. It happened to be during a period of national mourning, so we were married wearing simple blue robes. One day, I will make sure you wear a phoenix crown and a 10-mile red dowry. I will make up the wedding ceremony for you. In the 3 years of our marriage, he never forgot that promise for a moment. However, just yesterday, the person he cherished so much was received by a pitch-black coffin. Does she love him that much? To voluntarily endure such humiliation. The horse reins were twisted out of shape in his grip. He couldn't understand it. It was all a mess. He decided to pull himself out of those thoughts. Just as he was coming back to his senses, he suddenly saw a black coffin emerging slowly from the alley. Terrifyingly, the coffin was tied with red silk ribbons and adorned with large red double happiness characters. The words bad luck flashed through Gu Yanji's mind. He spurred his horse and galloped forward. He reached the funeral procession, but his surge of anger instantly vanished when he saw young General Shui's spirit tablet. It was completely gone. He and Shui Junqing had once shed blood on the battlefield together. He had died in battle a month ago. It was a tragic loss. Young General Shui died 10 days ago. Why is the funeral being held only today? My lord, the general's funeral was held 7 days ago. The funeral today is for his wife, Lady Lu. Gu Yanji's confusion deepened. My lord, you remember correctly. Our young general indeed did not marry during his lifetime. Because of that, our old madam, seeing he left no family, and passed away so early, arranged a ghost marriage contract for him. Lying inside is the wife who was buried with him just yesterday. Coincidentally, she's from the same hometown as you. In Gu Yanji's heart, an inexplicable surge of panic suddenly rose. From my hometown? Yes. The Lord is a busy man and has a short memory. 3 days ago, when I went to receive the bride, my lady's bridal sedan, even crossed paths with your wedding procession. The servant continued, the faint smile on his face fading even further. Heaven have mercy. Princess Fusang married a good man. But Our Lady Lu drank poison to go to the Yellow Springs. It was the lethal gut-wrenching poison. I don't know how she endured it. Ah, she traveled here alongside you. Did you not notice anything strange about her along the way? Gu Yanji's face instantly turned dark and gloomy. What is your Lady Lu's name? Our Lady who was buried with him is the eldest daughter of the former Grand Tutor in the capital. Her surname is Lu. Her name is Shuangling. In an instant, Gu Yanji was struck as if by lightning. He even stopped breathing. Just then, Cholan came stumbling from somewhere. She was soaked by the wind and snow, and her clothes were covered in dirt and mud. When she saw my hearse, she was overcome with grief. She fell to her knees before the coffin. Miss, why? Why wouldn't you let me see you off on your final journey? Miss, I don't want to get married. I don't want gold or silver. I only want to continue serving by your side, miss. Gu Yanji's mind went completely blank. He couldn't believe it. How could it be? How could it be her? Cholan looked at the person in the coffin. Too pained to speak. She let her tears fall freely. Gu Yanji's chest felt like it was being pierced by countless needles. The pain made it almost impossible to breathe. Nearby, the onlookers were gossiping. This young General Shui was loyal and heroic during his life. The old Madame Shui was sad that he died unmarried. I heard the bride sent by the Lu family isn't the younger daughter who was originally betrothed. It seems to be the eldest daughter who was previously married. Gu Yanji was stunned. The Shui family betrothal. The Shui family had a betrothal with the Lu family's younger daughter. It was laughable that he thought because young General Shui had died, the betrothal would be null and void. So, she wasn't marrying that profligate Shui Jinghui, but the young General Shui who just died on the battlefield. He stared at the pitch-black coffin, his eyes nearly bursting from their sockets. A lump in his throat prevented him from saying a word. He stumbled forward, ignoring everyone's attempts to stop him, and split the coffin open with a single sword stroke. He didn't believe it. Without seeing the body with his own eyes, he simply wouldn't believe it. But as the coffin lid split in two, inside the coffin, I was dressed in a red bridal gown and exquisite makeup. Only my face was deathly pale. I was as quiet as if I were merely sleeping. My lord, my lady is already dead. I beg you, let her rest in peace. Having heard the commotion, old Madame Shui hurried over. Seeing it was Gu Yanji, her cold, stern face twitched slightly. The Shui family had originally wanted the Lu family's younger daughter. It was not until the bride was delivered that they realized it was the divorced eldest daughter. But it was already a done deal, and they had to go along with it. Seeing Gu Yanji's profound grief now, she realized that although they were divorced, he still had me in his heart. Lord Gu, we should set off. We must not miss the auspicious hour. Gu Yanji gave a cold command. Lu Ming, send the princess back to the capital. My lord, are you not returning to the capital with us? Miss Lu has already remarried another. She has married young General Shui. She was the one who craved wealth and glory. She was the one who, when you were at your lowest, abandoned you. Such a heartless woman. Why should you grieve for her? Gu Yanji's eyes were full of grief. His voice was extremely raspy. Set off. Seeing this scene, Princess Fusang felt an indescribable sadness in her heart. But she knew she could not interfere. Nor should she. Hearing those words, Cholan felt a sudden surge of desolation in her chest. She was sad for me. I had suffered so much in life. And after death, my coffin was split open by Gu Yanji, while his confidant slandered me with malicious words. She felt the injustice for me. If my lady hadn't insisted on divorcing Lord Gu back then, would your master truly have been able to rise so rapidly and become the Dali Temple Commissioner? Now that you are to marry Princess Fusang, please do not disturb my lady's peace. Each word struck like a heavy blow, as if tearing his entire heart apart. Ignoring the gazes of the commoners, he just walked forward, step by step, and lifted that calm-faced woman out of the coffin. He remembered what he had promised me. That one day, he would grant me a phoenix crown and robes, a 10-mile red dowry, to make up for the wedding ceremony we never had. Now he has come to fulfill his promise. Source, language, Chinese, simplified, translated to English. Lord Gu, this ghost marriage was something my lady decided before she died. It was the Shui family who requested an imperial decree to protect the women of the Lu family. My lady said she had to repay this kindness. She could not go against the final wish she made in life. However, in the next second, Gu Yanji asked in a cold voice, She entered a ghost marriage just to repay a debt. Gu Yanji looked coldly at old Madame Shui standing nearby, and walked toward her step by step. Old Madame Shui. For Shuanglin to enter a ghost marriage to repay a kindness. Exactly what kindness does the Shui family have with the Lu family? Old Madame Shui's blood pressure surged, rendering her unable to speak. Coming from a family of generals, she had seen much of life and death, but eyes as cold and desperate as Gu Yanji's were something she was seeing for the first time. My lord, there are two types of poison in Miss Lu's body. One is crane red, which was ingested recently. There is also a chronic poison in her system. She must have been taking it for some time. The physician traveling with Gu Yanji finished the examination and reported back to him. In the carriage, Gu Yanji looked at me in his arms. The first time he met me was during the Lantern Festival. I was wearing a mask and solving lantern riddles. Countless scholars had gathered, yet I was the one who won the top prize. He became interested in me. He followed me, only to see me take off my mask, holding a lantern, and laughing with my maid, Cholan. I've won this lantern for you. As for the festival, you must keep it a secret. The wind and snow in the capital were quite heavy then. At that moment, he was stunned. The snow seemed to have unsettled his heart. When I wanted to marry him, the Lu family didn't know Gu Yanji's true identity, so they obstructed us in every possible way. But I only asked him one thing, Gu Yanji, is your heart truly for me? In the future, I must be your only wife. Can you do that? My heart for you is witnessed by heaven and earth, and proven by the sun and moon. With just that one sentence, I defied my parents, and resolutely married him. From that moment on, Gu Yanji thought, such a wonderful wife is someone I must protect even with my life. When the Lu family met with disaster, it was the first time he yielded to Gu Xiong. He had hated Gu Xiong for 10 whole years. Since the death of his biological mother, he had severed his ties with Gu Xiong, breaking their father-son relationship. He entered the military alone. He wished he could grind Gu Xiong's bones into ashes and scatter them to the winds. Yet, he still yielded. He thought of his pride, his self-esteem. He could give it all up, as long as Lu Shuanglin could live well. During the 3 years after the divorce, it wasn't that he hadn't thought about looking for me. He thought even if I loathed or hated him, as long as he could keep me safe, it would be enough. But Gu Xiong only coldly dropped a sentence. Today I can protect the women of the Lu family, but tomorrow I can certainly grind them into dust. Since you have already divorced Lu Shuanglin, do not have any further connection with the Lu family. His biological father was someone who wouldn't even blink while killing his own wife. He was truly afraid. He thought only by having enough power could he protect me. So he climbed up through his own hard work, and finally had the strength to contend with his father. He knew that after 3 years of divorce, I was still unmarried. So he prepared a 10-mile red dowry, and also prepared a phoenix crown and robes. He thought, no matter what reason I had for divorcing him back then, I would ultimately want wealth and status. He would get me power, and he could give me glory. I had looked down on him for being a useless person, so he would explain the past reasons to me. He even found a doctor who could treat my infertility. He thought after he finished the wedding escort for his brother, he would tell me everything. However, when the carriages collided, he saw me wearing a bridal gown, sitting in the sedan chair. I was getting married. At that moment, a wave of immense sadness rushed over him. After learning I was to marry Xue Jinghui, he became incredibly angry again. How could a man like that be worthy of his Shuanglin? He held me in his arms, pressing his forehead tightly against mine. He stayed there for a long time, unable to say a word. He wanted to scold me for acting on my own, and he wanted to question me. Lu Shuanglin, you wanted me to rise to the top, to fulfill my great ambitions. But what about you? Lu Shuanglin, what about you? Were you supposed to just go and die? Gu Yanji caressed my face inch by inch, choking back tears. Shuanglin, I'm taking you home. Taking you back to our home. He thought that this time, now that he held me, he would never let go again. Riding at full speed for 2 days, he finally arrived back at the capital that night. But as soon as he reached the city gate, he saw the women of the Lu family waiting there, as if waiting specifically for him. When Gu Yanji dismounted, Lu Nianchuan hurried forward. She had been crying. Her face was covered in tear stains. Lu Nianchuan didn't look at me. Not even once. She just knelt crying in front of Gu Yanji. Lord Gu, you and my sister have already divorced. My sister voluntarily entered a ghost marriage with Xue Junqing. I beg you, do not take her body back. She is already dead. In that case, let her death serve its purpose. Gu Yanji thought of that chronic poison, and knew it was my family who had forced me. He looked at her coldly. Lu Nianchuan, Shuanglin clearly entered that ghost marriage in your place. How can you be so at ease, saying such things as letting her death serve its purpose? After saying that, he turned to enter the city, intending to take his late wife home. Once I was peacefully laid to rest, he would settle every grievance. one by one, until all debts were paid. He turned to leave. And in the next moment, he heard Lu Nianchuan sob. It was my sister who stole 16 years of my life. Why can't I let her die in my place? What? What did she mean by Lu Shuanglin stealing Lu Nianchuan's life? For 16 whole years. It was clearly Lu Shuanglin, who took the place of Lu Nianchuan's intended fate of death. Lu Shuanglin was originally just the daughter of a concubine. She was the one who switched Lu Nianchuan with me. I was outside the city, suffering in the manor, while she, under the title of the Lu family's eldest legitimate daughter, enjoyed the love of my parents that rightfully belonged to me. Now the Lu family must have a daughter for a ghost marriage. To protect the women of our family. Shouldn't it be her? Now that she's dead, the ghost marriage is ruined. Lord Gu, I beg you, for the sake of the bitter lives of the women in my family, let go of my sister's body. Don't let her die in vain. So that was the truth. No wonder Shuanglin, who was the eldest legitimate daughter, was eventually demoted from legitimate status to a concubine's daughter. Even the maids in the manor dared to bully her at will. But she had never told him any of this. He stared at Lu Nianchuan, his voice completely indifferent. And so? She was supposed to die for you? To be honest, I feel pity for young General Shui. That he actually fell for a woman like you. When he first met Shui Junqing, he knew Shui Junqing had feelings for Lu Nianchuan. For her sake, he even defied the imperial decree and refused the marriage. And the one whose marriage proposal he rejected was the current emperor's most beloved young princess. Because of this, the emperor exiled Shui Junqing to the borderlands. Young General Shui, is this truly worth it? If you had married the princess, you wouldn't have to rush to the battlefield, living a life where today doesn't guarantee tomorrow. You could have revived your declining family and attained a top position in the court. Lord Gu, if you had a woman you loved, would you care about gains and losses? What Shui Junqing did for Lu Nianchuan was more than just that. Because of a casual remark from Lu Nianchuan, saying she wanted the shells from the borderlands, he rode thousands of miles, traveling day and night, just to make her happy for a moment. Learning of the Lu family's crisis, to protect the women of the Lu family, he immediately established a marriage contract with them. Old General Shui originally didn't allow it. He knelt in the manor and was whipped hundreds of times. Even after suffering the full weight of family discipline, his original intention remained unchanged. During these 3 years, Shui Junqing worked desperately to achieve military success on the battlefield. Also he could establish his own household, so Lu Nianchuan wouldn't be criticized by his mother. The letter he left at the last moment only said the marriage contract was void, wishing Nianchuan to find another good husband. Gu Yanji pulled back his thoughts, his voice turning a few degrees colder. Miss Lu, if I were Shui Junqing, I might also regret meeting you. In front of Dazhao Temple that year, this was what Shui Junqing had told him. At that time, Shui Junqing was injured, blind in his right eye, and was mocked and humiliated by the sons of noble families. Only the passing Miss Lu used a silk handkerchief to bind his eye. In this life, not everything is destined to be perfect. Even if you never see the light again, if your heart is pure, you will be able to see everything. A pure heart sees everything. He was blind in his eye, but at that moment, he seemed to see a woman in white, gentle-featured, standing by his side. The parents who raised him wanted him to be born into a family of generals, yet he had become a cripple. Only that woman stood by his side. Gu Yanji lowered his eyes. Frost and snow fell on my brow. He gently brushed it away, and lowered his head to whisper in my ear. Shuanglin, we're home. I brought you home. The frost and snow fell even harder. Lu Nianchuan went silent instantly. She stood stunned on the spot for a long while, laughing mockingly at herself. Shui Junqing, you really are a fool. Miss, the snow is getting heavy. Be careful not to catch a cold. Shall we go back to the manor first? She still remained entirely oblivious, only looking up coldly as the snow fell on her. Suddenly, her throat tightened. Shui Junqing, if you knew the person you protected with your life was not the woman in your heart, would you regret it? Yes, that year at Dazhao Temple for the Buddhist ceremony. She hadn't wanted to go, so she had sent me instead. It's just that the name written in the registry was still Lu Nianchuan. The one Shui Junqing was moved by was not her, but me, the person he protected with his life, seeking only a lifetime of happiness for his beloved, was also me. Lu Nianchuan felt an indescribable sadness in her heart. She had never been moved by Shui Junqing. She shouldn't have been sad, but for some reason, her eyes felt a bit stinging. Back at the Gu Manor, Gu Yanji placed me on the bed. He sat by my side, tightly holding my hand, as if I were merely asleep. He had been mumbling for a whole night. He suddenly remembered a case he had presided over a few days ago. Shuanglin, do you know? A few days ago, I presided over a wife-killing case. That man had 3 mistresses outside, but he had once promised his wife a lifetime for one couple. His wife confronted him, saying she would destroy those 3 mistresses. In a moment of panic, The man actually killed his wife on the spot. Afterward, he was in agony. While presiding over the case that day, I suddenly thought of you. If you were that man's wife, what would you do? I think you would probably divorce me quietly, and then disappear completely from my world. Xuanglin, what should I do? I have truly lost you forever. If this were the case, he definitely wouldn't have let go of my hand back then. Not for a single moment. He actually thought I didn't love him anymore. He actually wanted to set me free. He had promised me that he would let me have my way in everything. He stared at me on the bed, looking over and over again, his heart feeling as if it were being torn apart, the pain making it impossible for him to breathe. He struggled to close his eyes. Xuanglin, how am I supposed to forget you? Once he closed his eyes, it was my image. It was every year on his birthday. Me personally busy in the kitchen, making him longevity cakes, preparing longevity noodles for him. It was when I saw that little bamboo hut, throwing myself into his arms in surprise, saying that when I lived in this bamboo hut later, I would plant flowers and grow vegetables. Those expectant eyes, the look of them being full of starlight. It was when he was injured on the battlefield, and I bathed him, seeing the gruesome scars on his body, crying until my eyes were red and swollen, saying I wished I could suffer the pain for him. How could he forget someone he had loved deeply for years, for the rest of his life? How was he supposed to take these memories, crush them over and over and over again, reminiscing about them time after time? Gu Yanji buried me with his own hands. It was what he had promised me. The 10-mile red dowry, the phoenix crown and robes. It was both a wedding and a funeral. He wed his wife once more. The tombstone was also carved by his own hands. He even planted the courtyard full of loquat trees. I loved eating loquats. If one day I came back and saw this garden full of loquats, there should be a moment of joy, right? On the 7th day after my burial, Prime Minister Gu came. He looked coldly at Gu Yanji. Humph. Gu Yanji, you've caused enough trouble. It's time to return to the family and acknowledge your roots. Gu Yanji sat in the head seat of the hall, his pale knuckles tightly clutching a teacup. With a crack, it shattered all over the floor. He looked up at Gu Xiang. The man in front of him was old and decrepit, with a hunched back, coughing incessantly after just saying a few words. Gu Xiang, are you joking? Ever since you killed my mother with your own hands 10 years ago, I severed my father-son relationship with you. What acknowledge your roots? He could never forget the image of his mother dying tragically in front of him. It was Gu Xiang who personally fed her poison, leading to his mother's tragic death. Gu Xiang was silent for a long while, and after a long time, he sighed. Gu Yanji, at that time, I had my difficulties. What difficulties? Was it because that mistress knew your true identity? You were originally the son of a rebellious official. If this identity was discovered, you feared your position as prime minister would be lost. So you had no choice but to be controlled by that mistress. Killed my mother, and made that mistress your legitimate wife. Now you've used chronic poison again, to let that mistress go to her grave with her secrets. And you want to have me acknowledge my roots? Prime Minister Gu, aren't you being a bit too calculative? Prime Minister Gu's face gradually turned cold and dark. These were all secrets. They had long since been taken to the grave by that mistress. He thought no one would ever know. Yet they were still discovered by his own son. It's true that Prime Minister Gu was the son of a rebellious official, but he had studied hard from a humble background, and climbed all the way to the position of Prime Minister. The Gu family line shouldn't be cut off just like this. Was he supposed to let all 70+ people of the Gu family lose their lives for nothing? Because of his true identity? Between 70+ lives and one life, he had no choice. When he personally sent his devoted wife on her way, he too suffered an unspeakable pain. But if it were Gu Yanji, how would he have chosen? Over the years, Prime Minister Gu had given that mistress many drugs for infertility. As a result, he only had 2 sons. His eldest son was injured at the horse farm, leaving him with disabled legs, unable to carry the Gu family legacy. The only person he felt guilty toward was his devoted wife, whom he had failed. But it just so happened that Gu Yanji's face was 70 to 80% similar to that wife's. He could only make up for that guilt through him. It wasn't that Prime Minister Gu didn't know that Gu Yanji couldn't let me go. It's just that he really didn't want Gu Yanji to get involved in that mess. The matter of the Liu family was definitely not as simple as illicit communication with the palace concubines. One wrong move, and Gu Yanji would lose his life. Even the entire Gu matter could be implicated. He couldn't stand by and watch Gu Yanji go to his death. Prime Minister Gu's health was already failing. He had to entrust the Gu family to him, so he could only make him acknowledge his roots. But Gu Yanji was still unwilling. Prime Minister Gu had originally wanted to use the Liu family women as pressure. After all, they were the ones I was willing to protect with my life. But seeing Gu Yanji's sorrowful appearance, he suddenly realized something. He couldn't let Gu Yanji's mother die for the family, and then force his only bloodline to do something against his heart for the sake of the family. He let out a deep sigh. And finally turned to leave. Right after Prime Minister Gu left, Gu Yanji's confidant, Lu Ming, came to report. Lord Gu. The two people from the Shui family who proposed the ghost marriage have died of poisoning. Now only the people from the Lu family are left. Those who suggested my lady should take the place for the marriage. Do you want me to act? Gu Yanji sat high in the head seat. His eyes cold and clear. Only his expression carried a sense of brokenness. He gently swirled the teacup, maintaining the appearance of a noble, calculating gentleman. He said softly, they should be killed. However, in the next second, his confidant Lu Ming hesitantly presented a letter. My lord, in addition, I have reinvestigated the Lu family. Please have a look. This is the truth behind why the entire Lu family was exiled. And also the truth why my lady would rather divorce than drag you down with her. Gu Yanji stared blankly, taking the letter. Written on it was the correspondence between Lord Lu and concubine Xu. It turned out Lord Lu was an upright official of the imperial censorate. The crown prince had humiliated a girl named Chen Shi when he was 12. Her father was Chen Yanli, a grand official of the imperial censorate. Then a formal complaint was reported to the imperial court. But what they got in return was for the sake of preserving the royal dignity. The Chen family was slaughtered for being rebellious, while the crown prince was only confined for 3 months. The Chen family only left behind an unregistered concubine's daughter. Her husband had died of illness, but she was already pregnant. Then to seek justice, she entered the imperial city alone. Over the years, Lord Lu and concubine Xu had been collecting evidence of the crown prince's crimes against women. Lord Lu thought that such monstrous crimes could not be hidden, but he never expected that it would eventually lead to all the men in his family being exiled. Before entering the palace, concubine Xu had given birth to a daughter, who was raised in a manor outside the city. That young daughter was Lun Yanchuan. Afterward, concubine Xu's identity was suspected by the crown prince, so concubine Xu entrusted Lun Yanchuan to Lord Lu. The reason I agreed to the ghost marriage in place of Lun Yanchuan, it was all because of guilt. Among the letters was one particular sheet. It was a letter I had left for the old madam of the Lu family. Grandmother, I have occupied Yanchuan's life for 16 years. Now that I am taking her place in this ghost marriage, I have no complaints. I only wish grandmother good health and a long life. Lun Yanchuan did not have a good life at the farmstead. She suffered endless humiliation and never had enough to eat. And all of that, I believed I was the one who was supposed to endure it. So, day after day, I was consumed by self-reproach. That is why I was willing to die in place of Lun Yanchuan. Such a wonderful Lu Shuangling. If only he had investigated all this sooner. If only he had been a bit more careful. If only he had noticed these anomalies. Would Shuangling not have died? Gu Yanji took the evidence and went to the Lu family alone. Old Madame Lu came to the main hall to receive him. She leaned on her cane, her face full of exhaustion, along with resentment toward Gu Yanji. Lord Gu, you bully my Lu family for having no men, blatantly taking away our daughter, only for her to lose her chastity. Now you come to the Lu residence. What business do you have? Gu Yanji had Lu Ming present the collected evidence. Then he said in a cold voice, if old Madame Lu knew that Lu Shuangling was the true eldest daughter, I wonder if, today, you would feel any sorrow for everything that happened before. Before coming, Gu Yanji had already discovered through investigation that the chronic poison in my body was administered by Madame Lu. He knew that the reason Lord Lu hid the truth from everyone in the family and framed my identity as a fake daughter who had been swapped was because he had already prepared to let me die in Lun Yanchuan's place. He wanted to protect the only bloodline of his dear friend. But what did I do wrong? Why should I have to die for her for no reason? In their lives, they did not hesitate to gamble the lives of their entire family to seek justice. But why, when it came to their own bloodline, did they no longer care for justice? He didn't understand. So he made up his mind. He was going to give this truth to the Lu family. He wanted them to know that they had personally driven their own blood to death, leaving them to live with regret for the rest of their lives. Madame Lu walked to old Madame Lu's side, reading the evidence page by page. Then, her whole body couldn't stop trembling, and she burst into tears. It was as if she was enveloped by a massive wave of grief. Her voice was so raspy she couldn't say a word. So you're saying, Shuangling was actually my daughter? She hated that her husband, to protect his friend's bloodline, had even deceived her. She regretted it so much. She had personally sent her own biological daughter to her doom. Madame Lu's body felt like it was being pricked by countless needles. A bone-chilling cold spread through her entire body. In an instant, even her blood seemed to freeze. Lord Gu has immense power. Why would you forge such evidence to deceive an old woman? Nianchuan is the legitimate daughter of my Lu family. Shuangling was born of a mistress. Other than that, what Lord Gu says, this old woman knows nothing of, and will certainly not acknowledge it. Old Madame Lu and Madame Lu had seen the evidence. They both knew the truth of the matter, but old Madame Lu couldn't acknowledge it. If she did, This matter would be a case of the Liu family deceiving the emperor. And not a single woman in the Liu family would be spared. Old Madame Liu, there's no need to worry. This evidence has vanished along with Shuangling's death. You should be grateful. Even though Shuangling, over all these years, never received any love from her family, before her death, the ones she was most concerned about were still you all. His voice grew increasingly cold and desolate. Since I passed away, he didn't care about anything anymore. What Liu family? If the women died, they died. What did it have to do with him? But he was afraid I would blame him. The grievances between me and the Liu family ended here. From now on, I, Gu Yanji, have nothing more to do with the Liu family. Since it was my wish, he would fulfill it for me. She was my biological daughter. So, what have I done to her? She remembered that I loved to eat loquats when I was young. So she carefully planted loquat trees. When the loquat fruits were full, I would always happily and excitedly pester her to pick the fruit. But later, when Lu Nianchuan came back and said she was allergic to loquats, not a single loquat tree was left in the Lu residence. She remembered when I took it upon myself to get a divorce. She had nothing but complaints for me. If you hadn't married such a useless person, how could your father not have been saved? If I didn't divorce him, was I supposed to let him die along with me? Mother, I only ask that you grant me this one wish. She remembered when she was in the farewell pastries, and had given me the chronic poison. I had looked at her with such sorrow, eating it bite by bite with a face full of tears. Mother, it's been a very, very long time since I've eaten pastries you made with your own hands. It's delicious, I like it very much. Tears mixed with the pastries, bitter and astringent. How could it be delicious? But back then, she only coldly scolded Lu Shuangling. If you want to blame someone, blame your mistress mother. You let my Nianchuan suffer so much bitterness. Exchanging it now for your one life is already treating you well. When my sedan chair went out from the back gate, she didn't even look at me once. Not even once. This was her biological daughter. This was the daughter she carried for 10 months, suffering through labor, whom she once swore to hold in the palm of her hand, and raise as a precious gem. How could she treat her daughter like this? It wasn't until Gu Yanji's back disappeared down the corridor, that she could no longer hold back and wailed in a hoarse voice. Old Madame Liu, looking at the grieving Madame Liu, also felt a stifling pain in her chest. She valued status above all else. The daughter of a mistress naturally didn't catch her eye. But even so, the granddaughter she didn't favor or like. Ultimately, for the sake of a Liu family that had never treated her well, gave her life. Old Madame Liu patted Madame Liu's shoulder. You must remember, Lu Shuangling was only a concubine's daughter. A concubine's daughter who was married off. She couldn't even have a memorial tablet set up for me in the Liu family. After Gu Yanji returned from the Liu residence, the place he went most often was Dazhao Temple. Every time he went, under the wishing tree, he would hang it full of prayer slips he had never hung before. May Shuangling have everything go smoothly, and a perfect life. A young novice monk saw Gu Yanji, and asked him in confusion, why does the benefactor always make the same wish? Because I have nothing else to ask for. Before the gods and Buddhas, he was never greedy. The only thing he sought was this one thing. May Shuangling have everything go smoothly, and a perfect life. If he couldn't pray for this life, then could he pray for the next? Gu Yanji would come every time he had a break from duty. After continuing for a year, he actually encountered the beggar from the inn that year. At that time, he was a saint monk worshipped by the people, revered by the common folk, a saint monk who saved people from suffering. He was instantly stunned. Eminent monks from various temples gathered there, to worship and pray. Once the ceremony ended, Gu Yanji went forward, to block the saint monk's path. The abbot of Dazhao Temple looked displeased. Lord Gu, do not disturb the saint monk's peace. He invited Gu Yanji into the meditation room, and brewed a pot of tea for him. Ask whatever you wish to ask. Gu Yanji didn't drink the tea. He only stared fixedly at the saint monk. Since you are a saint monk, why do you deceive people? In front of the inn, you said Shuangling would give birth to a boy and a girl, but she died. The saint monk looked at him calmly, and very serenely told him to drink tea. All things have their causes and conditions, and all have their cycles of reincarnation. Was what this poor monk said about the past life or the next? How does the benefactor know that the person encountered in this life is unrelated to the past? What the saint monk said, Gu Yanji didn't understand at all. He drank the hot tea, and just as he was about to press further, the saint monk was nowhere to be found. He asked the abbot of Dazhao Temple, and the abbot said the saint monk had returned to the snow mountains. He sent people to investigate the saint monk, and it was said he had the power to judge life and death, and peer into the future. The saint monk's words, he couldn't grasp their meaning, but he wanted to seek a reunion with me in the next life. There were 10,001 steps up the Qinglong snow mountain. One must prostrate and bow at every step, to earn an audience with the saint monk. So, he went. Barefoot. The 7-foot-tall man was extremely devout. Bowing at every step. Under the freezing frost and snow, he fainted 3 times. His feet were covered in chilblains. Yet he still went up step by step. Followers who saw him sighed in wonder at what this man was seeking. That he would disregard life and death just to see the saint monk. Such a man is rare in this world. If there truly were gods and Buddhas in the world, he was willing to use the rest of his life to exchange for me to live again. Oh, compassionate saint monk. He has only this one wish. Even if it means his soul must vanish forever, he has no regrets. He reached the domain of the Qinglong Snow Mountain. There, amidst the dense white mist, a temple appeared indistinctly. Those who came to seek claimed the saint monk was a fraud, as they had never seen the temple. Only Gu Yanji, bowing at every step, reached the temple. He pushed the door and entered. The onlookers were all astonished. How did that man walk into that white mist? And then disappear? Gu Yanji pushed open the temple gates. He saw the saint monk gazing at him. With a deep sigh, the monk said, "Your wish cannot be fulfilled. However, seeing your obsession, I shall let you glimpse your past life." Buddhist incense curled in the air. Gu Yanji had never felt so peaceful. He seemed to be dreaming a dream. In the dream, it was the 18th year of the Zhaoyang era. He was the crown prince of Great Zhao, and I was the princess of Great Zhao. We were not born of the same mother, but our relationship was extremely close. Back then, Great Zhao was facing a war. Gu Yanji, as the crown prince, often had to lead troops on expeditions. So I would wait day after day on the city wall. The phrase I said most often was, "When will my brother return?" My maids would tell me over and over again, "Princess, the war is constant. It is difficult for the crown prince to return to court. Wait until the news of victory arrives. Then the princess will be able to see the crown prince." The thing I did most often was to pray for Gu Yanji's blessing, waiting for his triumphant return. My brother, Gu Yanji, was invincible in battle. Everyone was certain he would never lose. Only I was constantly worried, having nightmares every night. The world only cared about what victories Gu Yanji had won. Only I had seen the hideous scars on his body. It was the fear of losing him that made me more and more anxious. The one on the battlefield was my family, the person I cared about most. In the winter of the 18th year of Zhaoyang, His Majesty found some young talents for me, saying I had reached the age when I should be married. I cried for an entire night. "The crown prince is your brother. You can't keep pestering your brother every day." There was the talented eldest son of the Chui family, the civil official with the backbone of the wind, and the top scholar from a humble background. But there was notably no military general. Why was there no military general? The battlefield has no eyes. I only wish for Xu Angling to find a suitable husband in this life. But I didn't even take a single look. The gentleman His Majesty found today. Each and every one of them has excellent looks and family background. Why didn't the princess take even a single look? I lay on the bed, turning my body away. I didn't answer them. In this world, there are only 2 kinds of men. My brother, and everyone else. When the news of victory arrived in the capital at the end of the year, I was overjoyed. Brother didn't lie to me. Whenever he went off to war, he would find some prose for me to copy. Last time it was the Shanglin Fu. This time it was the Zishu Fu. Today, I had just finished copying my prose. And brother's news of victory had already arrived in the capital. I put on my pink cloak, and had the maids and servants tidy up my attire. This was the god of war of our great Zhao, the man in the dreams of countless noble ladies in the capital. What a pity, what a pity. The emperor has already decreed a marriage for him, to the highly esteemed legitimate daughter of the prime minister. The 2 of them are truly a match. When I heard this, a sour and bitter feeling welled up in my heart. When my brother entered the city, as if throwing a tantrum, I didn't go to welcome him. The one who went to welcome him was Su Jiao. The 2 of them chatted happily at the city gate. It felt like my heart had been pecked at. An indescribable pain. "Isn't the princess going to welcome His Highness?" I turned around. "I'm not going." As I descended the city wall, I saw Gu Yanji sitting high on his horse, as if waiting for me. I brooded and didn't want to call him. Brother had a half-smile on his face. His noble and indifferent face was thinner, and even more stern than before. "Xu Angling, brother is back. I'll take you back to the palace." After he said this, he pulled me onto the horse. His chest was against my back, his breath hot. Inadvertently, it felt like ants were biting at my heart. "You are getting married. Does Xu Angling not want me to marry?" I bit my lip, as if my heart had been pricked. "Everyone in the capital says father has decreed a marriage for you. But why, when the whole world knows? Am I the only one who didn't?" The winter snow fell in swirls, as if falling on my heart. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "After Xu Angling gets married, brother will marry." His voice was like ground sand, low and soft. Before the end of the year, the prime minister's daughter got married, to the eldest son of the Chui family of Qinghe. I didn't know if Gu Yanji had a hand in this. I only took heart. Brother didn't have to marry anymore. On the day the prime minister's legitimate daughter got married, I went. I gave her the jade bracelet I cherished so much. Princess, this official's daughter has a question. When there are countless gentlemen in the capital, why is the princess unwilling to marry? I was stunned. It took a long time before I said, I don't want to marry yet. The woman dismissed her maids and asked again, is the princess unwilling to marry? Or is it that the person she wants to marry cannot be married? I fell silent. I didn't know how to answer. Was it that I was unwilling to marry? Or was the person I wanted to marry someone I couldn't marry? Over these years, I never dared to mention these topics, let alone have any delusions. I feared that if one day I were to have such delusions, it would lead to my eternal damnation. He was my brother, and could only be my brother. Princess, this official's daughter also had someone I wanted to marry but could not. Now that my wish has come to naught, I wish for the princess to have her wish fulfilled. Before her, I felt as if I were being seen through. When I returned to the palace that day, it was my birthday. Father said, next spring, I will find a suitable husband for you. I've looked around, and I think that top scholar is not bad. What does Xu Angling think? I instantly stopped talking. A glimmer of tears could be vaguely seen in those phoenix eyes. Does brother also think Xu Angling should get married? Gu Yanji was dazed for a moment. A few days ago, I went to attend the wedding at the Prime Minister's residence. That Miss Su asked me, is the princess unwilling to marry? Or is it that the person she wants to marry cannot be married? Does brother know how I answered? In the candlelight, my expression was calm. Gu Yanji held his cup, silent for a long time. Perhaps after hearing this, he would no longer want me to marry. All right. Princess is 3 years younger than you are already married. You can't stay unmarried for a lifetime. I didn't answer him then, because the one I wanted to marry was someone I couldn't marry. Brother, I grew up in the Imperial City, and I only want to stay confined in the Imperial City. Your Highness, is the princess still unwilling to marry? Gu Yanji drank cup after cup of wine. Silent for a long while, he finally spoke. If she doesn't want to marry, then she won't marry. Gu Yanji was such a talent, able to see into people's hearts. How could he not see the feelings of his own younger sister? He had thought it through. If I didn't want to marry, then I wouldn't marry. Defying an imperial decree to refuse a marriage for me, why not? Your Highness should know. After today, the storm will only get worse. Gu Yanji thought. He had manipulated tens of thousands of people in his life. Now, he also wanted to protect his younger sister, and let her have everything go smoothly. That day, the always respectful and filial crown prince defied 2 imperial decrees. One was defied for his younger sister, the decree to grant her a marriage. One was defied for himself, also a decree to grant him a marriage. His Majesty was furious. Because of this, countless censors submitted petitions, fearing that the crown prince and the princess were having an affair, which would be a royal disgrace. The language in the imperial court grew increasingly heated. Then came a victory at the frontier. Gu Yanji hurriedly led his troops back. Before he left for war, he only said one thing to me, Xu Angling. No need to wait for brother anymore. On the night of his departure, noble consort Zhao brought wine to drink with me. Noble consort Zhao was my biological mother, and also a close friend of the Empress. As the alcohol took hold, noble consort Zhao put down her cup, and pointed in the direction where Gu Yanji had galloped away. Xu Angling, mother often wonders if mother was wrong. When I was 12 years old, the first time I realized my feelings for brother, I lost my appetite. I always felt I was a girl who lusted after her own brother. How could I lust after my own brother? Noble consort Zhao found out, and told me Gu Yanji's true identity. In the year Great Zhao was founded, the Empress was once kidnapped by enemy forces, and later became pregnant with the child of the enemy leader. Gu Yanji was the child of the Empress and the enemy. From that moment, I knew that Gu Yanji and I had absolutely no possibility. If his identity were known to the world, he would no longer be the highly esteemed Highness of Great Zhao. He would be nailed to a pillar of shame. His identity was a death warrant. So, I couldn't say anything. In the end, noble consort Zhao told me while crying, Mother knows the one you want to marry is someone you cannot. But now, for the sake of your brother, you must marry. If you don't marry, he will never marry in his life. There is absolutely no way His Majesty would hand Great Zhao to a prince who does not marry. And if a prince who holds heavy military power does not sit on the throne, what will be his end? You should know. What mother means is that if I don't marry, it will kill brother. That day, I cried for an entire night. When I was 12 years old, I also cried for an entire night. I would rather be confined in the Imperial City than marry someone else. But only now did I realize that things in this world cannot always be perfect. Even though I was prepared for the worst, there are still things I must do against my will. I married the top scholar. I continued to copy the Ode of Longing as my brother had told me to. I wanted to wait until I finished copying the ode, believing my brother's victory report would reach the city by then. In the 19th year of Chaoyang, I copied the Ode of Longing exactly 12 times. The Empress defied the imperial decree, and was confined to Qianan Palace. In the 20th year of Chaoyang, I copied the Ode of Longing 101 times. My brother still hadn't returned. That winter, the scholar finally sighed, held my hand, and told me, "Princess, no need to copy it anymore. His Highness, he won't be coming back." I looked up at him quietly, feeling much calmer than I had imagined. Is it that he won't come back? Or that he can't come back? The scholar fell silent. I nodded in understanding, and entered the palace that very night. Noble consort Zhao, realizing I already knew, sighed repeatedly. "My child, if I had known, I wouldn't have hidden it from you." It turned out that after she defied the decree, her identity was reported by a maid beside the empress, all for a chance to leave the palace. That maid didn't know that the reason the empress kept her in the palace was because she had long intended to promote her to a female official. That battle was not an expedition. It was a path to his execution. I was so grief-stricken I couldn't say a word. How did my brother die? In a water dungeon for 49 days, dying after suffering flogging and slow slicing. The pain was beyond words. I clutched my chest, feeling as if I were enduring the same agony. "Ailey, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. If I had known it would come to this. Mother should not have stopped you." The snow outside the hall grew heavier. I simply stepped into the wind and snow, step by step. The Ode of Longing was a letter written by a husband to his wife. This was my brother's response to me. It was enough. I walked step by step to the Dazhao temple. In this hall, I prayed countless times. I offered the rest of my life's years to pray for a next life, praying for a chance to be husband and wife with Gu Yanji. In the 22nd year of Chaoyang, I gave birth to a son and a daughter, a pair of twins, a dragon and a phoenix. Everyone thought I had moved on, but I left my young children behind, and went alone to Dazhao temple. With the remainder of my lifespan, I prayed for the chance to be husband and wife with my brother in the next life. Even if it were only for 3 years, I would accept it. I knelt before the statue day after day, praying. In the 23rd year of Chaoyang, kneeling before the statue, I died as my heart's pulse gave out. When Gu Yanji woke from his dream, he was drenched in sweat. The pain in his heart made it impossible to breathe. Those 3 years of being husband and wife were actually what I had prayed for with my previous lifespan. When he woke, a holy monk was sitting at the table drinking tea. Gu Yanji knelt on the ground for a long time. "Holy monk, I am willing to forego reincarnation in this life. Just let me see Ailing one more time. The worldly ties are finished. They are already settled. Those 3 years of marriage were what she prayed for, and also a mercy from the gods. Now it has all ended. You will no longer have any fate together in future lives. Why persist in your pleading? Holy monk, I only want to see Ailing one more time, even if it means I never enter reincarnation again. Since we can never meet again in any future life, then why should he even step back into that cycle of rebirth? The past has ceased. Everything has ended." The monk did not speak of the past life. I knew then that the destiny of one lifetime ends here. What I sought by giving up reincarnation resulted in these 3 years of fate, but now the cycle has no me. That temple turned back into nothingness. He stood alone and lonely in the heavy snow. As he looked back, it seemed he could see that slender, frail figure kneeling in the wind and snow for a long time. If we cannot meet again in the next life, he could only pray that in the next life I find a husband I truly love, and live in peace and happiness year after year. That was all he asked. He vaguely saw a queen of the night flower blooming in the snow, only to return to nothingness in the end. The wind gently blew the petals onto his dark hair. Unknowingly, some memories were slowly being pulled away. By the time his thoughts returned, Gu Yanji had already forgotten me. He forgot those 3 years of marriage. And even more so, he forgot the past and present lives. Everyone around him kept silent about me. In late spring of that same year, His Majesty granted him a marriage to the daughter of the Minister of Revenue. He obeyed the decree. To him, it seemed to be the same no matter whom he married. His Majesty has granted me to you, and I cannot refuse. I know you have no feelings for me, and it is the same for me. I only wish for us to live in harmony. I ask for nothing else. Gu Yanji agreed. Rather than marrying a woman who expected a lot, it was better to be with Niao Niao. He would treat her well, but only treat her well. In the 2nd year after the marriage, his elder brother died of illness, and his sister-in-law followed in death. His hometown relatives also passed away in March of the following year. From then on, he had no living relatives in this world. He solved many strange cases, claiming his life was dedicated to ensuring no injustice in the world. He worked through the night at the government office. Niao Niao would prepare food for him. Everything seemed to have returned to a state of calm. Only Gu Yanji was always trying desperately to remember. Did I forget a certain memory? You must be joking, my lord. Rather than letting him remember those painful memories, it was better to forget them completely from then on. You have been married to Lord Gu for 2 years. Why is there still no news of a pregnancy? Niao Niao pursed her lips and said nothing. She and Gu Yanji had not yet consummated their marriage. How could there be any news of a pregnancy? Only by having an heir. Could she truly secure her position in the Gu household? The court was in turmoil. The position of the crown prince was precarious. I have Gu Yanji, the only bloodline of the prime minister's residence, and the prime minister was his majesty's lifelong friend. Therefore, no matter how that fire burned, it would not reach Gu Yanji. This was the reason Niao Niao married Gu Yanji. That night, Niao Niao returned and prepared a late dinner, even drinking some hibiscus wine, which was rare for her. He only drank a little wine, and his face showed a slight flush. Is there some happy occasion for madam today? Niao Niao's face turned red with shame. She felt it was hard to speak of, yet she still summoned her courage. She ordered the maid to blow out the candles, lit some incense, and then took off her hairpins. Husband, we have been married for 2 years. It is time for us to have an heir. Why force yourself to do something you are unwilling to do? Lord Gu, do you think I want to be like this? Since you married me, we should act as husband and wife. My family needs a child, and I need a child. When you married me, you promised to treat me well. Why can't you think of my situation for once? She knew of the past between him and me, so when she married him, she never expected to win his heart. She thought, a woman's entire life depends on her husband's favor, while a man can have many wives and concubines. So she thought it was the same no matter whom she married. So it was better to marry a man who could provide protection for her family. And Gu Yanji was her best choice. Outside the bedchamber, a maid was suddenly heard shouting that the loquat tree had borne fruit. This loquat tree seems to have been planted by the master himself. When they fall, we'll give them a taste. They will surely be sweet. Gu Yanji was suddenly stunned. He didn't respond to Niao Niao's words. The loquat tree has borne fruit. Niao Niao was confused. Gu Yanji pushed open the door on his own and walked into the courtyard. He looked at the loquat trees filling the courtyard, smelling the fragrance of the loquat fruit. It was as if he saw a woman standing under the tree, saying to him indignantly, Gu Yanji, I don't want to eat loquats with the skin on. Peel them for me. He remembered everything. Niao Niao straightened her clothes and walked in front of him. Then, she heard him say in a calm voice, in the courtyard stands a loquat tree, planted by my wife in the year she died. Now its canopy is as broad as a parasol. The loquats have borne fruit. Do you think she will still return? Niao Niao was stunned. She knew he had remembered. How could he forget? How could he? Niao Niao stopped speaking, only returning to the bedchamber in silence. A surge of tears burst from her eyes. She was just sad for him. Sad that two people who clearly loved each other were now separated by life and death. She was just sad. Why must there be so much imperfection in this world? She could understand. She really could. The person she loved was a guard in the manor. But in the end, her parents had that guard drowned in a pond. After that, she regretted it every day. Her sorrow was that she fell for someone she shouldn't have. This world is just that strange. She had harbored delusions. In this world, there are many things beyond one's control, and many tragic pasts. Niao Niao thought if there were a next life, she didn't want to be a daughter of a noble family anymore. She only wanted her little guard. Gu Yanji went to the palace for several days in a row. He requested 2 decrees. One was for his resignation, and the other was to seek the title of Duke for the Minister of Revenue, ranking him among the 3 highest officials. In the future, no matter how the court was in turmoil, His Majesty would certainly weigh the importance carefully. His Majesty was both annoyed and angry, yet also helpless. He didn't understand how such a talented young man could be so troubled by love, and bind himself so. But what he requested, the emperor eventually granted. Then Gu Yanji went to his late wife's grave. He brought the now ripened loquat fruit, treating them as precious treasures. As he placed them before my grave, Shuangling, the loquats have borne fruit. I originally wanted to call you to come eat them, only to suddenly realize you're not here. All you sought in this life was for me to rise high in my career, safe and smooth, but all I sought was for everything to go as you wished. Shuangling, if I don't have you, none of this has any meaning. In his previous life, when he suffered torture in the water dungeon, he only felt regret. Regret for the sincerity he never got to speak aloud. And now he felt regret again. Regret that he had never once despised me, yet had somehow caused me to misunderstand. If I had known this life's fate of being husband and wife was something I forced, even if I were to carve out his heart piece by piece, as long as I was willing, he could be the one to hand me the knife. If we can never meet again, he would no longer be willing to enter this cycle of reincarnation. The autumn wind was bleak, and parasol tree leaves were scattered all over the ground. Gu Yanji died in front of his late wife's grave. A queen of the night flower grew in front of the grave, drifting away with the wind. Ah, why does the master feel sorrow for mortals? In the end, everything in the world has its cause and effect. It's not about cause and effect. It's just that despite such deep love, in the end, they still had to miss each other with regret. But everything in this world is already predestined. Those 3 years were already what he sought by giving up 500 years of merit. The autumn rain was like a curtain. He looked back at this place, Where is the old friend now? The misty waters are vast. Such is a floating life. Too many partings, too few meetings, and never perfect. I fell in love with Gulang at first sight. He had a handsome face. And my heart was moved for him. Hearing that he was at the White Deer Academy, I then did the most foolish thing of my life. I dressed as a man to enter White Deer Academy to study. I was his classmate for 3 years. What he loved most were the classics and political essays. There was nothing else in his heart. So I started wanting to tease him. Gulang, here is a surprise for you. So it's you. Unexpectedly, his eyes remained calm. He just took that grass snake to the mountains to release it. All things have a spirit, go on. One plan failed. So another was made. I had my guards pretend to be mountain bandits, planning to show up and save him when he was frightened. But he actually started conversing with my guards about the principles of the sages, trying to use reason to reform them. When the world is unjust, how can we stand peacefully in the world? That night, the guards fled one after another, actually saying they were going to join the army, to restore peace to the prosperous era. I found it interesting. Taking advantage of being drunk, I hooked my arm around his neck and asked him, "Are you willing to become my man?" Ah. He fled in panic. When we met again the next day, he had personally prepared a betrothal gift, and was standing in front of my residence. "What you said last night, was it sincere? In this life, I only set my heart on one person. If you are sincere, I will come to propose marriage." I was surprised he knew my identity, and even more surprised that for 3 years as classmates, I had deceived and teased him so much. Yet he had never once shown anger, nor had he exposed me. Gulang, not everyone in this world has to follow the rules like me. As long as you didn't hurt anyone, following your heart, what's wrong with that? If you marry me, everything can be done as your heart desires. Father, I want to marry Gulang. Good, we shall choose an auspicious date. Father will enter the palace to ask His Majesty to grant the marriage. Fusang, it's father who has failed you. The marriageable girls in the palace are only you and His Majesty's princess. Sigh. If it wasn't you, it would have been the princess. What he meant was that His Majesty would not let his own princess marry to a remote land. So it could only be me. I smiled bitterly for a moment. And then I resolutely embarked on the path to a political marriage, leaving Gulang only a letter, wishing that he could marry a good wife. During those 5 years of political marriage, I suffered all kinds of humiliation, which also made me lose the possibility of ever becoming a mother. They sent me back. There was no other reason, but pure humiliation. I had thought of seeking death. I am willing to marry you. Are you willing to marry me again? Now I am already a broken shell of a person. I didn't deserve such a good man as him. But the next day, it wasn't a letter. It was he himself, truly appearing before me. He was sitting in a wheelchair. Fusang, don't be afraid. I have also long been a broken shell of a person. Please don't despise me, okay? I touched his face, caressing every inch of it. In those years when he learned of my fate, yet was powerless to do anything, the pulse of his heart had snapped from grief. He was broken because of me. How could I despise such a good man? The years after marriage were the happiest of my life. I know after this, you won't be willing to marry again. But I still hope everything goes smoothly for you, and that you live a long and healthy life. I will protect you from the heavens. I promised him I would live well. But Gulang, oh Gulang, everything in my life has gone smoothly. Except for the one thing, marrying you as I wished. Those painful memories gnaw at me every day. I am a flower on a cliff. You are that ray of light that seeped into the cliff face. You were the one who allowed me to live these 2 extra years. Without the light, how can the flower on the cliff survive? Must it wither and suffer, waiting for the petals to fall? Gulang, merely existing, cannot be called living. If there is a next life, I wish I could be as bright as when we first met. I wish to meet you again. I wish for a life that can be complete. And even more, I wish for 100 years of peace, free from worry year after year.